Please be seated. The court is back in session. The floor is now given back to the prosecutor to continue his questioning to this witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me pick up where I left off. The last question I asked you, I was not asking you to confirm again what Pol Pot said at the Congress regarding the reopening of markets and people returning to Phnom Penh. What I wanted to ask you now was whether after that meeting, during the last 3 months of the Democratic Kampuchea regime, that is October, November, and December 1978, did the party actually start recirculating currency and open the markets during those 3 months? Did that actually take place?
That's what he said.
Oh, I understand that that's what Pol Pot said. What I'm asking you is whether that actually happened in either October, November, or December 1978. Did you start recirculating currency and reopening the markets in that time period, or did that not happen?
I do not know because after the Congress meeting finished, I went out of Phnom Penh.
Okay, I'd like to turn back to the document that you had just identified that had been announced at the party Congress by Pol Pot, and a document that you confirmed had been provided to you, and that you went back to Mundalkuri sector and instructed the people there about. And Mr. President, I'd like to put on the screen, this is document E3/764, and the excerpt that I would like to ask the witness about is at Khmer ERN 000798280, English ERN 00275 218, and French ERN 00623 529. And if we'd like to put that on the screen as well, with your permission.
Yes, you may proceed.
Mr. Sausaroon, I'm going to read to you a section from the document that you just testified was announced at the Party Congress, given to you and other representatives, and that you went back to instruct your people in the sector on. And that section reads as follows, quote, "Fourthly, for those who joined with the CIA, WAN, or KGB from 1975 to 1978, regarding those who have joined the CIA, WAN, or KGB after the liberation, the party will divide them into two categories as follows. First category, any person who is recalcitrant, who still continues to carry out his or her activity against the CPK, the State Revolutionary Authority, the workers, farmers, the socialist collective regime, Kampuchean people, and the Democratic Kampuchea, such person shall be punished because he or she is carrying out traitorous activity intentionally with his or her resolute opposing stance, with their satisfaction stance in serving the enemies such as the CIA, WAN, and KGB. This sort of people has made the clear marks of their own boundaries. Thus, the CPK must eliminate them. My question to you is, can you recall any comments that Pol Pot made on this part of the policy at the September 1978 Congress?
Yes. These documents was read out to me by the investigating judges, and this was the documents circulated during the 1978 Congress.
And do you recall whether there were in fact further arrests of alleged traitors or enemies from Mondulkiri sector after the September 1978 Congress?
No, there was not. After September 1978, no one was arrested.
Well, I'd like to try to refresh your recollection on that issue by turning now to some events from late in 1978. Towards the end of 1978, did you make another trip to Phnom Penh?
I seem to forget about that. It was a long time ago.
Mr. President, if I can read from the first interview given by the witness to the co-investigating judges, which is document E3/367, and the reference is at Khmer ERN 00251-439, English ERN 00278-696, and French ERN 00486-012. And if we could put that on the screen.
You may proceed.
In your first interview with the co-investigating judges, you made the following statement, quote, "About 1 or 2 weeks before the Vietnamese fighting and occupying Phnom Penh, I received one telegram from Pol Pot. I did not see any copying to anyone, calling me, Sophia, Talan, and Talok to a meeting in Phnom Penh." End of quote. Does this refresh your recollection about a meeting that you were called to attend in Phnom Penh in the latter part of 1978?
Yes, we went to the meeting. The names mentioned are correct.
And is it correct that you were informed to go to this meeting by a telegram that you received from Pol Pot?
Yes, a telegram was sent to me calling me to a meeting.
And did that telegram identify the other cadres from the sector that were also to come to Phnom Penh?
No, there was not. Only those I said earlier.
Yes, that's what I was asking you. For example, did the telegram specifically identify Ta Sophia as one of the people who was to come to Phnom Penh?
Yes, it was. The name was clearly identified in the telegram.
Do you recall that the Deputy Secretary of Division 920, Ta Kim, was also called to go on this trip with you?
I forget all about it.
Do you remember who you met with in Phnom Penh?
I met with Pol Pot.
And do you recall whether there were also other leaders present at the meeting from Phnom Penh?
No, I don't think so. There was only Pol Pot.
Mr. President, if I can read another short excerpt from that same interview, which is E3/367, and it's a continuation of the same pages that I mentioned just before.
You may proceed.
Mr. Sasaroon, in your interview with the investigating judges, continuing on the subject of the same meeting or the same trip to Phnom Penh, you made the following statement, quote, "The four of us flew to meet with Pol Pot, Son Sen, and Noon Chea at the same Pol Pot's office behind the Royal Palace." Do you confirm that that is an accurate statement as to who you met with when you arrived in Phnom Penh?
I stand by my statements before the co-investigating judges.
The person you identified as Ta Lan, who came on this trip, can you remind us what his position was as of December 1978?
His role was with the military. It was with the regiment. Rather, correct interpreter, it was at the battalion.
Was he the commander of one of the two battalions in the Sector 105 military?
Yes, he was at the battalion, but I cannot recall the code number of that battalion. It was a long time ago.
Mr. President, I'd like to read and ask the witness about a statement that has been made by Talan, the person he just identified, who accompanied him on this trip, to see if that refreshes his recollection. The document is D125/151, and the specific sites are Khmer 00236-734, English ERN 00244-338, and French ERN 274-832. If I may proceed.
Yes, you may proceed.
Mr. Witness, Talan has made the following statement about this trip that you went on. Quote, "One day in 1978, I was asked by Ta Sapia and Ta Sarun to board an airplane to go to Phnom Penh. Accompanying them were Ta Kim, the deputy of Division 920, Ta Lork, identified as Ta Lang's elder brother and member of the Sector 105 committee, and Ta Beng. When we arrived at Pochetong Airport, they detained Ta Kim. One night later, I saw they called Ta Sopia to get in a car and drove away. He disappeared since." End of quote. Does this refresh your recollection that Deputy Secretary Kim of Division 920 was also called to go to Phnom Penh, and that he was arrested immediately upon your arrival at the airport?
Matt.
Yes, I can recall that when we arrived in Phnom Penh, he was taken away, but I was not aware of the reason why he was driven away.
Who was it that came to the airport and drove him away?
I did not know who they were.
How many people were there who took away Ta Kim?
I cannot recall it. I cannot recall the number of people there.
Did you ever see Ta Kim again?
No, I did not.
Can you tell us what happened to your brother-in-law, Ta Sapia, on this trip?
During our trip to Phnom Penh, nothing happened.
Mr. President, at this time, to again assist in refreshing the recollection of the witness, I would like to read from the OCIJ statement of Ham An Si, which is document E3/366 at Khmer ERN 413, French ERN 00283-165, and English ERN 00250-750. And put that on the screen also, if we may.
You may proceed.
Mr. Salsaroon, in his statement, Ham An Si indicated the following, quote, "Once when I was meeting with Talork and Tasaroon, they told me that Tasapia had been taken to study in Phnom Penh. Is it correct that Tasapia was taken away while you were in Phnom Penh?"
Yes, it is correct. It was said that he was taken to study, but he disappeared since then. We never saw him again.
And do you recall when you met with Pol Pot, Noon Chea, and Son Sen during this trip? Was anything said about Ta Sopia at that meeting?
As I remember, it was not mentioned. Nothing was mentioned about Tasapia.
Mr. President, I'd like to read from document E3/367, which is the initial interview of this witness by the co-investigating judges, and the excerpt is from Khmer ERN 00251-439, English ERN 00278-696, and French ERN 00486-012. And we would also like to put that on the screen.
You may proceed.
In your initial interview with the investigating judges, you made the following statement, quote, "Pol Pot told us to try to strengthen our forces and strategies to resist Vietnam. At that time, he did not refer to anyone as a traitor, but he said that Sopia from the military section should stay and work on the military affairs, and had the three of us fly back to Konek. Sopia disappeared forever since then." Is that a correct statement of what Pol Pot said regarding Tasapia at your meeting with him?
This is correct. He said about strengthening our forces to resist Vietnam. This is correct. This is what he said.
And did he also make the statement that you indicated regarding Ta Sopia needing to stay in Phnom Penh?
He did say so. He said Ta Sopia was to stay and work there, but he was never seen again.
Mr. Salsaroon, to refresh your recollection of the timing of this meeting, we have a prisoner log from S-21 which records that Sector 105 member Put Ki alias Sopia entered S-21 on the 6th of December 1978. For the record, that is document D108/26.280 at Khmer ERN 00086-832, English ERN 00789-507. And we also have a S-21 confession of Division 920 Deputy Secretary Chan Kim, which is dated the 10th of December 1978, and it is document D159/3.4. Now, you have stated that your trip occurred 1 or 2 weeks before the Vietnamese arrived in Phnom Penh. Does this refresh your recollection that the trip during which Sophia and Kim disappeared occurred more like 1 month before the Vietnamese arrived? Is that consistent with your memory of when your trip to Phnom Penh occurred?
I would like you to clarify your question a bit further.
Yes, we have records that show that the date on which Sophia entered, indicating that the date on which Sophia entered S-21 was the 6th of December 1978. Does that help you recall the time period when you went to Phnom Penh for this meeting? Was it approximately 1 month before the Vietnamese arrived?
I don't remember this issue. It was a long time ago.
And have you ever seen your brother-in-law, Tasapia, since the trip you went on with him to Phnom Penh in late 1978?
No, I never saw him again after he was captured and said he was to work in Phnom Penh.
I'd like to turn now to just a few questions about the Phnom Creole Security Office in Mondulkiri. Can you tell us who was responsible for supervising the Phnom Creole Security Office in Mondulkiri?
I would like you to clarify, we do not have Phnom Creole.
My mistaken pronunciation, I was referring to Phnom Creole Security Office. Can you tell us who is responsible for supervising that office?
It was only Sophia.
And who did Sophia report to?
At the time, he reported to the chief of sector. He reported to Dalang.
Can you tell the chamber who Ta Lang was?
Talang was the sector chief.
I actually was not asking about Lang. I was asking about a different person, Ta Leng, spelt in the English spelling Leng. Do you recall a Leng who was located at the Phnom Kraul office?
I do not know about Talang because he came from Ratanakiri.
Can you tell the chamber what happened to Ta Leng in 1977 or 1978?
I do not know about that.
Mr. President, if I can read from the first interview of this witness, E3/367, and the excerpt I would like to read is from Khmer 00251-440, English 00278-697, and French 00486-013. And we'd like to put that on the screen also.
You may proceed.
In your first interview with the investigating judges, Mr. Witness, you made the following statement, quote, Division 920 was one of the center's divisions that had the right to arrest both the civilians and military at the sector level. For example, Ta Lang was arrested. End of quote. Do you confirm that this was an accurate statement?
Yes, I do. This is correct, as I said to the co-investigating judges.
What do you recall about the arrest of Ta Lang? Ta Leng.
I do not remember about that. I do not know what happened to him.
How did you know that Division 920 had the right to arrest both civilians and military in Mandalkiri sector?
I knew about that because when it came to the arrests, it was to do with Division 922. Division 922 would designate their forces to do the work.
And for the record, Mr. President, we have a S-21 confession from Kven Nok, alias Leng, Battalion Secretary in Sector 105, which is document D175/3.70. I want to ask you about another person whose name you've mentioned during your testimony. This was an individual who you identified as the District Secretary of Chabar District, whose name was Cham. Do you recall this person?
បាទគឺ
Response: Yes, it is correct.
Can you tell us what happened to Chabar District Secretary Chum in 1978?
បាទខ្ញុំអត់
Response: I don't know, because at that time I was at the district and did not know much about that.
Well, we have a S-21 log titled Prisoners Interrogated on the 8th of April, 1978, that includes a Yim Krut alias Cham from Sector 105, and it indicates that he entered S-21 on the 17th of March, 1978. This is document IS 16.101 at Khmer 000-39833 and English 00234-245. Do you recall whether Cham disappeared during the Democratic Kampuchea regime?
Response: When Cham disappeared, I was still at the district, and I do not know more than that.
And finally, Mr. Sausaroon, on Thursday, you claimed that an individual who was identified in a telegram that you sent on the 9th of April, 1978, which was document E3/1078, you claimed that the person identified in your telegram as the individual responsible for ordering the boat burning incident, a Mr. Lean, was still alive, notwithstanding that we have an S-21 record confirming his arrest. If Kong Lean is still alive, as you claim, can you tell the court where he is? Because as I indicated to you on Thursday, his brother has not seen him since he disappeared after that boat burning incident. If, as you say, he is alive, can you tell us where he is?
Response: As I stated before the co-investigating judges, that he is alive in Mundolkiri. However, I don't know whether he has been arrested or not, because things happened long ago after 1955 and 1956.
When is the last time that you saw Kong Lean?
Response: When I went to my hometown, I saw him, although I don't remember the exact date I met him, but I saw him.
Very well. Before I end, Mr. Sausaroon, I must ask you, are you somewhat reluctant to appear here as a witness and testify against the accused? Are you here reluctantly?
បាទគឺ
Response. No, I'm not reluctant at all. I have nothing to be reluctant about, and I already stated clear in my statements.
I appreciate that. Are you aware that when court officials first came to summons you to appear to testify at trial, that they were told by your commune chief that you were deceased?
បាទដឹងចេះបានខ្ញុំនឹងទៅព្យាបាល
Response. At home, I had fallen very ill, and I had to be treated by a herbal man. And because the illness was serious, I told my children that I would not live. That's why people thought that I died.
Thank you, Mr. Sausaru, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to address that, and I will leave it to the other parties if they have any further questions for you on that matter. Mr. President, thank you for the time, and that's all the questions that I have at this time.
The President, thank you, Mr. Co-Prosecutor. Now we would like to proceed to lead co-lawyers for the civil parties. The civil party counsels who have been authorized to put questions to the witness may proceed now. Counsel T. Serena. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. And good morning, everyone. I am T. Serena, representing the civil parties. I have a few questions to put to the witness, but let me begin with my greeting. Good morning, Mr. Sarun. My questions are, and we have some time frames for the questions from 1955 to, rather from 1970 to 1975. The first question is, when you joined the revolution at the outset, did you know who were the founders of the CPK? Response, no, I didn't. Question, could you please be more specific? You didn't know who the founders of the CPK were, or you have no idea? Response, I just didn't know who the founders were. Question, last week you testified before the chamber when questions put by the prosecutors that in Kampong Thom in 1971 and 1972 you attended meetings. Do you remember what would be the subject of the meeting? Was there a plan for 1975 of the CPK debated in the meeting? Response, I don't think I remember this because it was a very long time ago. Question, in those meetings, were plans to evacuate people from Phnom Penh also raised? Response: I don't know. I haven't heard anything like that being raised in the meetings. Question. I would like now move to another question. This question starts from 1975 to 1979 period. After the CPK took control of Cambodia on the 17th of April 1975, were you aware or were you ever taught or explained about the party's policy concerning the party structure and appointments of individuals in the party's rank? Response: no, I don't know about this. Question. To the prosecutors, you already stated that you attended political sessions. Do you remember how often did you attend such sessions? Response. After 1975, after the liberation, I only went to that session on one occasion in Phnom Penh. Question. Why did you attend the meeting? Do you know why? Response. I don't know why. The only reason I know was that I was called to attend the meeting and I came. Question. After the session, were you told that the lesson learned from the session be implemented in the location you worked? Response. Indeed, we were told to impart or explain the content of the meeting to the villagers because Phnom Penh was entirely liberated back then. Question. Last week, you indicated before the co-prosecutors that the commune committee had to report to you once a month concerning the production and housing. Could you tell the court what was the crop production like back then? Response. It is correct that the villagers had to be well explained and instructed on how to deal with the foods and housing to ensure that everyone had enough food to eat and had houses to stay in. Question. I made clarification and so that everyone is clear and also to help you remember the events. What you are referring to here is to the period when you worked as the secretary of the district. At that time, when you, in your capacity as the secretary of the district, what is your view concerning the rice production of the villagers? Response. Talang was managing the people, and the people had enough food to eat. They did not have food shortages. Question: could you describe the housing condition of the villagers? In particular, how was a house like? Response: after the war, people would chop some trees to make their improvised makeshift thatched house, like that. Question: how was the housing organized? Were people on their own to build their houses, or were these properly managed by the management? Response: the chief of the sector would order to the commune chiefs to ensure that the people were properly treated concerning housing. Question: were the house already been built, awaiting for people to live in? Response: people, the villagers themselves, had to build the houses, and we in the management had to administer how houses were being built. Question: I may seek clarification. When you refer to the villagers, are you referring to the villagers of Sector 105 or others as well? Response: I am referring to people all across the province. That's what we were told. Question: when you remained as the secretary of the district of Pechada, did you often go to Koh Nhek district? I would like to also emphasize that Key was the secretary of Koh Nhek. My question is that did you go to Koh Nhek very often to attend meetings, for example? Response: could you repeat the question? I'm not quite sure I got it. Question: did you often go to Koh Nhek district? Response: I went there once a month when called to attend meetings. If I was not called, I would never go there. Question: who called you to Koh Nhek? Response: it was Talang. Question: why meetings were held at Koh Nhek? Response: the sector's office was located at Koh Nhek location at Phnom Kraul. Question: Is it correct to say that the sector office is was at Phnom Kraw? Response: yes, it is correct. Question: the office you're referring to is office 105 or another office? Response: office 105 is was a common office. Question: so you were referring to another office other than office 105. Could you please be more specific on this? Response: in the whole Mundolgiri, it was coded by 105. Question: I think I may need to repeat the question. I'm afraid you didn't get it quite right. My question is, the office you attended meetings was in Koh Nhek. What office was that? Who worked in that office? Response: the sector's office was called K17. Question: last week you testified to the co-prosecutors that the office K17 and office K11 as well as other recorrection office all located in Phnom Kraw. Is that correct? Response: yes, it is. I already indicated that they were in Phnom Kraw. Question: were these offices in one location or were far apart from one another? Response: from K17 to K11, it was about 100 meters away. Question: could you tell the court how people communicated from one office to another? For example, how could K11 communicate with K17 and other offices? Response: I don't know about the channel of communication. I just don't know. Question: when you went to Phnom Kraw, was Phnom Kraw in Koh Nhek or Koh Nhek was actually in Phnom Kraw? Response: Koh Nhek is the name of the district. Phnom Kraw was a location in which K17 office was located after the liberation. The president interrupts. Council, could you please be precise and also be mindful that Koh Nhek is a district. However, a sector could never be located outside a district. For example, the city hall is in a district, but currently this district vicinity is changed to a provincial town. So we hope Council is well aware of this and try to put more good questions. We are afraid that the Council may have not studied the geographical locations of this place, and for that you haven't put good questions to the witness. And again, it is about Koh Nhek and that the office located in that location. Council Tisrina. Thank you, Mr. President. I was trying to ask questions from the witness to clarify this. The President interrupts. Indeed, witness made clear statement concerning Phnom Kraul and he maintains his position. The problem is that Council may have not understood these geographical locations and how the locations identified, and a sector would be named to control that particular district and other surrounding districts. Tisrina. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to move to another question. When you attend the meetings, did you observe that there were other villagers in the surrounding location, or were there only members of the party attending the meeting? Response. Yes, there were quite a number of people living in the surrounding area. Question. Did you observe newcomers to the location when you attended each meeting? Response. No, there were no other new people other than the local people. Question. When you became the secretary of Sector 105, could you explain to the court the title, secretary or the chairperson of the sector? Why are these two terms used interchangeably? So could you shed light on this? Response. Sometimes the term secretary of sector would be used. Sometimes the term chief of the sector or chairperson of the sector would be used. they would be used interchangeably, and these two terms bear the same title. Like currently, we use the term governor of the district and also the chief of the district. There's no difference.
My next question is, when you came to be in charge of Sector 105, did you go to work at the place where Lang worked before? Response: when I was appointed the sector chief, I went to the same place that Lang works. I did not go to any other place. I went to the same place. Question: did Lang leave any documents that was in his possession during his job, and did you examine any of those documents? Response: there was no document left for me. The President interrupts. It is now appropriate for us to adjourn. Thank you, witness. It is now appropriate for us to take the adjournment for lunch break. We will adjourn until 1:30 in the afternoon. The Chamber would like to inform the parties and the public that the proceedings hearing the testimony of Mr. Salsaron is adjourned now, and we will resume the hearing of his testimonies tomorrow from 9 o'clock. In the afternoon session, the Chamber will hear the testimony of Kam Ngon. Parties have already been informed once about the alternative schedule of hearing testimonies of witnesses due to the health concerns of the witnesses. We are doing this in order to expedite the proceedings and to facilitate the health conditions of the witness. Mr. Salsaron, the hearing of your testimony has not yet been concluded. You are summoned to come again tomorrow morning on the 12th of June 2012, beginning at 9 o'clock in the morning. As well, Duty Council is invited to come tomorrow and the following days. Court officer is now instructed to coordinate with Wasu in order to return witness Salsaron to his home and to bring him back tomorrow morning before 9 o'clock. And for the afternoon session, court officer is instructed to bring in witness Kam Ngon before 1:30. The Chamber also wishes to inform the party that due to the fact that witness Kam Ngon is having a cold, and if we are not able to proceed with hearing his testimony, the Chamber will instead hear witness TCW 488. Yes, Defense Counsel for Mr. Nguyen Chia, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. My client, Mr. Nguyen Chia, would like to follow the proceedings this afternoon from his holding cell, and we have prepared the waiver.
President. Having heard the request of Mr. Nguyen Chia made through his counsel to continue his proceedings from a holding cell remotely for the remainder of today's proceedings by waiving his rights to be present directly in this courtroom, the chamber grants the request made by Mr. Nguyen Chia through his counsel to follow the proceeding remotely by audiovisual means for the remainder of today's proceeding by waiving his rights to be present in this courtroom. Defense is instructed to submit to the chamber the written waiver with the signature or thumbprint of Mr. Nguyen Chia. Audiovisual unit is instructed to live the proceeding to the holding cell where the accused person can follow the proceedings for the remainder proceeding. Security guards are now instructed to bring the two accused persons to their holding cells and to keep Mr. Nguyen Chia there where the audiovisual equipment have been installed for him to follow the proceeding and bring Mr. Kirsanporn back to the courtroom before 9:30. The court is now adjourned. All rise.